So while I'm thinking of it, actually, someone was mentioning before most of you arrived that we have a class on election night. Um, so my plans, I'll just say, is I invite you all to come, and we'll do a meditation. We'll do a loving kindness. Who knows? I might be moved to give a little talk, but I kind of think we'll probably stop at 8 when the polls close, so that you can settle by your TV or hop in your car to go to somebody's house to watch it with someone. So I just want to invite you to show up that night. But whoever does come, I will be happy. I just feel like what I would want to do is to meditate on election day. I would want to spend some time in this, which would prepare me for whatever it is to come. Which is kind of what this practice is all about. It's like preparing us for whatever's going to come, to be able to meet things skillfully. So who out there else would like to speak? It's like Barbara's.
I just have one more thing to say.
Sure.
I've been thinking, I've been sort of joking to myself that the last class is a final exam by
Mm,
you to see if we can actually stay calm and centered.
yes, it
You
is.
know? So I'm addressing it. It is not a final exam.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's probably unreasonable to expect you to just kind of be chilled out all night. But what you can bring to it is like self-witnessing. You can stay present and just, witness your joy, witness your distress, stay present through the experience. And yet, I'm not of the opinion that the Dharma requires us to kind of sit on our feelings all the time, and maintain this kind of stiff equanimity. Equanimity in its truest sense is to have a heart so open that the entire world can walk through and you remain in a certain kind of calm, but you still feel it all, you know? It's like your heart is open. It's not unbalanced by the waves that go through it. Um, Rather than feeling like you have to damp down all the waves, let the waves come, but stay present. Um, and so, the best insurance for that is a meditation session. Just this time that you spend um, being in the body. Because to feel the body, you have to be in the here and now space of consciousness. You can't feel the body and be lost in a thought about what bad is going to happen or what's good is going to happen or what bad happened. All these sorts of creations of the mind that erupt so easily in us human beings. If you just like ground down in the body and feel the space of present experiencing that the senses open up, that allows you then to walk in a different way in the world. And that works on election night, it works on works all the time. It's why we do this. Um, because it does carry over. There is a carryover effect. So anyway, that's my perspective on it. Um, so anyone else? And there's certainly a lot of political distress, if that's a category out there. So it's important to stay present. And, to have that moment of non delusion about your aversion is a huge kind of karmic step. Oftentimes I remember having this question myself of a teacher years ago. It's sort of like, well, when I meditate, you know, I notice just much, how much greed and hatred and delusion there is in my mind, and it doesn't feel good. And um, so what's wholesome about this? And the teacher very skillfully said, every moment where you're aversive and you see it clearly is a moment of non-delusion. And that's a powerful thing to strengthen in the mind. You were aversive before you knew it, before you noticed it. You are
Yeah.
both aversive and deluded. And so
Uh-huh.
to be aversive and not be deluded is huge. It's a huge step. And so you can just, the problem is we're so judgmental of ourselves and everybody that when we notice the aversion and now we're not deluded about it, then we have this habit of judging ourselves, which is unfortunate. There's no need to judge yourself. It's just the conditioning of your mind. You're just seeing the conditioning of your mind, and you're taking the first step
Yeah.
towards being liberated from it. So, this time when you're moving and you haven't sold the house, this is like a meditation bell gonging, you know, to tell you to wake up. Whenever there's suffering, suffering is this incredible opportunity to apply the Dharma. And so, the mind is maybe catastrophizing about the meaning of not selling your house, and there's a reality to that. There's a financial reality to that. And yet, in the moment, on a very simple level, all that's true is the mind is creating an imaginary future and torturing you with it. So to see that clearly, that's the opportunity, is to just see in the moment that is happening, oh, my imagination is creating a future. And it's acting like it knows what's going to happen here when it doesn't. Just a moment of non-delusion about um, the state that you're in and where the suffering is coming from. It's huge. Even if your mind immediately goes back to worrying. And what you're seeing in the body is happening in the mind too. It's like we're this jar full of mud and it's always getting shook up. We can't see very deeply into our experience because we're always shaking it up. So when you meditate, you like set the jar down. And the jar, which is your body, some of the mud has a chance to like actually settle. The heavy stuff, the crudest stuff, goes to the
Yeah.
bottom first. You might not be able to see through it, but you can see a lot further through it than you did when you didn't set the jar down at all. So
Yeah.
your meditations are just your opportunity to set the jar down. And then suddenly you can see the body. You can feel your thigh. Those things start to happen. All right, Stephen, I think there's a hand of some sort came up down there. Is that?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Excellent. I find that there's a kind of a snowball effect of applying the Dharma to the present moment, seeing what's going on, labeling it as, oh, that's conditioning. That's a conditioned thought that I'm very familiar with now, and I don't need to react to it. And there's a snowball effect that, is it, I see suffering as an opportunity to explore, to be comfortable with it. And that builds on itself in terms of the confidence I have in moving forward. So you know, when I recognize what's going on instead of reacting to it, I feel really good about doing the practice, and that just completes my moment of feeling alive and in touch. So I just want to confirm that it works for me in that way.
All right. Well, you put your finger on a really, really important point when you talked about seeing a thought as conditioned. You know, how liberating that is. Most of the time, when thoughts show up in our mind, we say, sort of implicitly or explicitly, my thought. This is me, this is mine. And it reflects on me. And so when you see a thought as just conditioning arising, it helps you to not do that. You don't claim it as me or mine. And when you're not claiming it as me or mine, there's not much to defend. It's just, oh, wow, there's conditioning in me. There's aversion towards such and such. There's worry. Well, worry has arisen in the mind. It feels very different than I'm worrying. So you put your finger on really one of the keys to how to be with experience, which is to see it as conditioning, as this is arising due to causes and conditions, and to not take it on. So thank you. I'm glad it's working for you.
And thank you for putting those thoughts in my mind.
You're welcome. It's my job. I'm kind of like sowing thoughts in people's minds. And their
Okay.
hearts too, and hopefully they'll sprout. Hopefully they'll sprout and bear fruit. And you're just receiving the fruits of thoughts that other people have sown in my mind. Not much of this is any of it is too original. So I'm happy to pass it on. All right. Tanis. I'm going to mute you, Stephen. There you go. Okay, you can unmute, Tanis, so we can hear you. Yeah, you'll have to unmute, Tanis.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay. Just first, I wanted to say thank you for telling us about the moment you're in right now, the time, and anyway, it was just wonderful to. I'm a person who did have two children, and it was just wonderful to feel that time again from your description, and it was just lovely. So thank you. And then it also brought me to, and I've mentioned this before, I think wrestling with, not wrestling, but trying to soften. It's helped me so much to have the meditations, your words and talks and other people's for so long. And I think I had a grandchild, a grandchild 3 years ago, 3.5, and our only, and that will likely be the only. And our daughter was, anyway, and I'm a 79-year-old, almost 80-year-old grandmother of a 3-year-old, the only one. And it's like I felt I didn't expect grandchildren. I wasn't sitting and jonesing for them or anything, and particularly a little. And then here's this incredible surprise. So just incredible joy. And there have been some very, very rough years before that, and kind of too much suffering. And so part of that was in contrast to that. And I just could hardly stand it. I felt so open in my heart and just so full of joy, and for the first time in a long time. So, and then discover slowly and just enjoyed that. It too, there was a diagnosis of my granddaughter that is not easily curable, but still, she still she runs a ton and she's just joyous when she runs. And all these, and so I just felt, other than our family actually grieving this loss, but and then being able to function more, I just, it's like I did feel my heart contracting. It wasn't just the sadness and the grieving, and she's only 3, and there's the future and hope, and I think compounded by my age, that I wasn't going to see her grow a little more and maybe be a little, you know and but then I realized, and it has to do with this present thing, what I was really aided by in a meditation, some things that were said here, and work, kind of working on it. Don't want to use that word, but also her presence, because she only lives 45 minutes away with her family, is, and my husband and I had a lot of contact with her early on, a little less so now because she's in programs a lot. But it's just when I'm with her, it all goes away. And she's making, incremental progress, but it's sort of unbelievable, the progress, that it's so amazing. But when I'm with her, she doesn't know. She just knows she can't express herself with what she's feeling, and that gets frustrating. But when I'm with her, it's okay. She's okay. And that just, I mean, our hearts soften with little children, but there it is. And
There it is. You're with what's real.
so it's real, and it's such a difference. It's such an incredible difference in what softening does. And so when I meditate, that's really the softening topic I just went for. It just seemed perfect. And I say that word even as I'm walking around and feeling that tightening. It helps. It's like this word
The
softening.
word itself helps, doesn't it? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's really, those two things she does, and the word softening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and the more it goes on, the longer this goes on, I think I feel it softening more. And no, with ups and downs, but so
Obviously.
anyway, I wanted to thank you, Mark, and I think it helped me a little talk today with you.
Yes.
We're
And
talking.
thank you for sharing about your own experience with your grandchild. And again,
Thank you.
you've illustrated beautifully this principle of how when you're in the present moment, the space of the present moment, how different that is than when you're in your head imagining the future, So with your daughter, when she's there and you're in relationship with her and it's now, and it's
Granddaughter.
happening now, your heart is open and it's okay. You might go away from there and then you're worried about her, and you're imagining the meaning and what all of this. And that's what the mind does. That's what we do to ourselves, like this whole imaginary thing. And then you come back and you're with her and you're actually in reality again. You're there in the moment. The future is not real. What's real is now. And what's now is special and full of possibility and delight. That's what is now, versus the thought about it.
Mm.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Thank you for illustrating that so well.
You're welcome. Thank you all. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome. I mean, the imagination is an amazing thing. It's part of what really makes us human is our incredible ability to imagine. And, it's part of what allows my heart to be in Seattle. It's my imagination too. So, it makes something present that's not immediate. So there's there's a whole skill of allowing the imagination to work. But it's also really helpful to notice when it's creating suffering, when you're seeming to create a reality that doesn't exist yet, or distorting it in some way. So thank you, Tanis. Well, we could just sit for the last few minutes. I'm happy with that. So why don't you just close your eyes. Let the mind just come into this current space of experiencing that the body and the senses hold for us. Just feeling the whole body and softening. Letting the mind soften and let go of any shoulds that it's holding about experience, and just letting be what is. And just noticing that felt sense of being that you are basking in, marinating in. This is home. This is the home you have wherever you go, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This present space of knowing, this felt sense of being. So just give an inward bow to it. this precious felt sense of being. So everyone be well.